Oh my goodness, Sam. Huge news in the accounting industry today.
The hugest.
Biggest, baddest, I don't know, baddest, whatever. Grant Thornton acquires CBIZ. This is big news. We want to dive into all the details on this acquisition. And then we want to talk about what does that mean for the landscape of accounting and just the industry at large. And then we're going to wrap up this video with some ideas we have, some thoughts we have for firms that want to remain independent in this landscape that we're in. My goodness, the changes just keep coming. The hits keep coming. The deals keep coming. But this one, I'll be honest, I did not see this one coming.
Yeah.
I'll talk a little bit later about what I thought was going to happen still this year that hasn't yet. This was not it. So CBIZ, the only publicly traded public accounting firm in the world, is going to no longer be publicly owned. They're going to be acquired by Grant Thornton, who is backed by private equity in this deal and all the other deals they've been doing. So yeah, that's like the big headline there. Fat chunk of money, $5 billion sale. It's insane.
All cash transaction.
Cash transaction, right?
It's the biggest deal in the last 25 years.
Yep. Biggest deal in the last 25 years like this.
And Mike, you had said before we started recording that this is, again, another evidence that there are firms that are really trying to compete with the big four, right?
Yep.
And I think what's interesting is like the last comparable deal like this was back in pre-Y2K. It was like 1998. Price Waterhouse, Coopers and Lybrand merged that created PwC, one of the big four. So there you go.
One of the big four. So perhaps we're seeing the big five being made, right?
Yeah.
Maybe we're heading in that direction. We're not quite there yet. This is a $7.5 billion combined firm between these two. And the next highest is KPMG at over $15 billion. So we're still half of the smallest of the big four firms with this combined firm. And let's see what Baker Tilly does. I know that's been kind of the Grant Thornton, Baker Tilly going back and forth, acquiring firms. Maybe Baker Tilly's got a counter acquisition in the bag soon, and they'll jump ahead. So I think we're just going to continue to see this like leapfrog of acquisitions, big roll-ups like this. I mean, these are two basically massive firms already who are then combining into one. So huge news in the industry. What else do people need to know, Sam?
New Mountain Capital. If you want to, start writing letters, you can start writing letters to New Mountain Capital. They're the private equity group behind Grant Thornton, which they acquired in 2024. So they're moving super quick. Think about that timeline. It's been 2 years since they grabbed a majority stake in Grant Thornton, and now in 2026 they're trying to push this deal through. It's not yet finalized, of course. As with any large giant acquisition like this, there are opportunities for others to come in and basically make their bid. But Grant Thornton plans to, I think, use CBIZ as like some of their like more specialty kind of verticals, if you will, and kind of segment those out into some standalone like companies that will be, of course, backed by private equity as well. So maybe the play here is like, hey, we've got this huge Grant Thornton firm. Let's grab CBIZ and just try to spin up as many things as we can. I think probably the main play here is just like, let's see how close to that big four we can get. The scale, like you said, Mike, is going to be roughly 7.5 billion in revenue. That's right around 35,000 employees across 20 countries. And what I think is interesting is, of course, no surprise here, the two press releases that were put out really leaned hard on AI. And they really wanted to push Grant Thornton's AI and technology platform of like, this is a move to get that deeper into the market, which is not surprising. that's a huge push right now in the industry to just push on AI. But Mike, let's dive into what this means for the industry as a whole. You and I know a lot of accounting firms that maintain their independence and they want to stay independent. We'll get to that. Like, what does it mean for them? But what does it mean for the industry as a whole?
Yeah, I think, well, first of all, there's going to be a fifth big four, right? Whether this is it or we're not quite there yet, but I think that's where we're heading. We're just seeing more and more and more of these large firms, right? These are national, or in the case of Grant Thornton, they really tout their multinational presence. Doing big mergers, big roll-ups. Baker Tilly grabbed Moss Adams already. This, I think, is only going to continue. And I think we're really seeing that, like, if you are a regional firm, you are directly in the crosshairs of private equity moving forward. This is what they want. They want to roll up these multi-billion dollar firms and create these huge platforms. Now, what is the end game? I don't know with private equity. I have thoughts. I've heard, rumblings that maybe like some of these are going to go public. In fact, that was what I expected to hear this year, was that one of these would finally actually go public and we'd see a private equity exit in a major way. This is interesting because this is actually the only publicly traded company in the accounting space is now no longer going to be publicly traded. So we're kind of like going backwards in that regard. But I still think that that's probably an in play for some of these firms. I do question like the big end, these really big roll-ups, like what's the in play here other than publicly traded? Who are you going to sell to at the end of the day? If you're private equity, like we're getting to a point where like, these are massive companies. Is there a market for them? And maybe, we'll be surprised. Maybe a BlackRock will swoop in and grab one of them, but there can't be that many private equity firms who are willing to take on this kind of expense from an existing private equity firm who's already probably leveraged a lot of the efficiencies gained or that they hope to gain through all these roll-ups. So we do know there's going to be more private equity sales to private equity firms. I think those are going to be at the smaller end. I think those are going to be in those more mid-size, the hundreds of millions of dollar value platforms that they're building. So I think there's just a lot more movement yet to come. And I think, when you think about like what's just happening, we're just seeing so much consolidation. And this isn't news to anyone in the accounting industry. It's like, hey, if you are a mid-sized firm, there's lots of opportunity to be gained by rolling up with other mid-sized firms. And private equity is just a means by which you can do that, right? Like that's the financial vehicle by which you're going to do that. Now, obviously, you're giving up a lot of equity if you're a partner in one of those firms when you do that. But I think the end goal is like, hey, let's get to these national and multinational levels and consolidate essentially, how many different brands are in the marketplace. Now, what that means is at some level, if you're a smaller firm, that means there's less competition. Like in a brand sense, there are fewer brands at play. And you have an opportunity, if you are a smaller firm, to start to think about how can my brand be differentiated and really stand out. We'll get more to that here in a few minutes. But I think that's kind of where the industry stands at the moment. Is there's just tons of roll-up that's going to continue to happen, and then acquisitions of acquisitions. That's going to start playing out. We know that's coming. And then from there, like I think there's lots of ramifications for your go-to-market strategy, depending on where you're at kind of in the mix, whether you're like a micro firm or you're a small independent firm, a regional firm. That's kind of where things are going to go. But if you want size, if you are interested in like hundreds, if not billions of dollars of value in your company, it seems like the only path at the moment is private equity. And I think that there is a difference. I think the slower, more methodical growth strategies that worked in the past for a lot of accounting firms that maintained your client experience, that kind of felt stable, and there's change, but it's so incremental that over time you don't even really notice it, right? Staff's feathers aren't ruffled. I don't think that kind of growth and change for any kind of multi-$100 or more, or $100 million or more firm is actually at all on the table anymore.
Yeah.
You have to grow at the pace of PE, whether you are PE backed or not.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to force a lot of firms to kind of evaluate, like, what are we really in this for?
Yeah.
Are we at growth at all costs? Because that's where we're at.
Yeah. The mid-tier is gone. Like the middle-sized to large-sized firms are disappearing. That tier in the industry is going away. And it's being replaced with this, like, we're $1 billion firm now, and there's more and more of those showing up because of all these acquisitions. As well as that, private equity is not going away, Mike. This is not a trend. It's not a fad. I think maybe a year or two ago, maybe people in the industry thought, like, they're trying this out. It's not going to work. And private equity, they'll figure it out and they'll be gone in like a year or two. Yep. Well, it's not. It's here to stay. And this is something that every firm in the market, in the industry, is going to have to deal with. And so I think that leads us into, Mike, we know a lot of firms. We talk with a lot of firms. What does this do for those firms who want to remain independent, who are maybe in that small to mid tier, maybe they're in the large tier? How do they respond to this? What do they do? What's the practical steps they take out of a huge deal like this?
Well, I mean, the first thing is you cannot compete where these firms have advantage, right? So we look, like, if you scroll down on Grant Thornton's press release, they're very clear. Here's their strategic rationale, right? And at least this is what they're publishing.
Yeah.
So this is what they say they're doing and why they think they're doing it, right? We're building a differentiated brand on professional. Okay, that's just a blanket claim that has no real backing. They don't even, multinational reach. So that's the first one. If your positioning right now as a mid-sized firm or smaller is on reach or breadth of services, or, hey, we've got lots of people, those are not claims that matter anymore because you cannot differentiate on them. Like, every one of these billion-dollar firms can outcompete you on every one of those categories. I would also argue, and this might be a little contentious, if you try to compete on technology and innovation, you're going to lose, in my opinion. Now, this is my opinion, but I don't think that, can you stay on par? Probably, right? But I don't think you can lead. I don't think you can be better or more, like, transformed in your software usage and your AI usage than any of these firms. And particularly, I say that because we know that the PE backers of these firms are pushing that so very hard.
Yeah.
And they're willing to drop significant money to make that happen. Now, will it be effective? Can they apply it to the client's actual needs and solve their problems with it? Or is it just lip gloss? That remains to be seen. And I think that leads into some areas where there is opportunity. So if you're small or mid-size, you have to find where your specialization is. That these firms cannot claim because they are so big and they are so broad and so wide that they can't have specialization, not in a meaningful and demonstrable way.
Yeah.
So that's really where you are. We talk to mid firms all the time who compete with the big four and say time and time again, well, we win against the big four. We win against the big four. And it's always because of their specialization, right? And I think that's how you have to treat the rest of these, like, Big 10, Big 20, right? Is that they're getting to the size where, like, they can't really be specialized. They might claim it, but they can't actually demonstrate it. You have to demonstrate it, though.
Yep.
So if you don't have data to back it up, if you don't have research, if you don't have products that back up your specialization, whether that's industry specialization or a particular way of delivering your service or specific geographic specialization, like those are the areas where you can still differentiate.
Yeah.
And then lastly, like you have a client experience opportunity that these firms don't have. You can tailor an experience for your particular audience. Again, it requires a specialization that just they are in love with. You can build relationship. You can be closer to your clients. You have less bureaucracy. You can move faster and be more agile and change with their businesses as they need you to. But you can't compete on breadth. You can't compete on depth. You can't compete on how widely you can serve clients across the world.
Yep.
Those things just are not claimable as a mid-size or smaller firm. You have to find your specialization. And,
yep.
I'll probably be beating this drum for a long time here, and people are going to get really tired of it. But I think that's the future, honestly, of growth in the industry. I think if you're thinking about, like, I would, even if you're like at one of these big firms and you're like, do I want to ride this out?
Yeah.
And maybe you're thinking, I don't. And you're like, I want to start a firm today. You have to be thinking, how focused can I be with my new firm?
Yep.
And there are advantages to small. You can be agile. You can be super flexible. Those are the kinds of things that these big firms cannot do. So that's what you got to lean in on. What do you think, Sam?
Yeah, I'd echo all of that. Brand clarity. Make sure your brand is super clear from the top to the foundation. Make sure your people know your brand as well. We talk about on this channel inside out marketing. Make sure everyone in your firm knows what your brand is about, and they're telling everybody they know, their clients, their potential clients, who you are and what you do in an authentic way. You talked a lot about specializations, getting into really some good core, clear niches. That's fantastic. And then I would say probably just end with this. If you're short on talent, go find talent at these giant corporations that probably is not thrilled with these deals. Not everybody at Grant Thornton or CBIZ is going to be like, yay, another acquisition.
No.
Go find some great talent that's sick and tired of this and bring them into your firm and grow that way.
I'm going to piggyback one idea that you just had, which is the talent poaching idea. I think that actually leads to an advantage that smaller firms have that we need to lean into even more if you're in a small firm. And that is the entrepreneurial spirit, right?
Mm.
I think there's an opportunity to say, let's try new ideas. Let's do things that the big companies will not and cannot do because of their bloat and their bureaucracy. And we empower the people that come into our firms to do the things that they're passionate about. I think that is a huge advantage and opportunity for a lot of smaller firms, is to just tap the entrepreneurial spirit of your people, particularly if you're going after new partners, from some of these bigger firms. Like every one of these, this has been going on forever, right? Every big four has lots of people in it who are stifled. And I think as we look at the Big 10, Big 20, that's going to become the same thing for them. And so if you can provide an ecosystem or a platform for people to try things, that is a huge advantage that smaller firms have.
Yeah.